Get connected with Take Two Radio on Facebook or Twitter at Take Two Radio. For email updates on future shows, follow at Blog Talk Radio. For previous episodes, upcoming guests, and more, visit Take2Radio.com.
Hi there. Do you have a business? Do you want to take that business to the next level? Did you know that Take Two Radio is one of the top 300 shows on Blog Talk Radio out of over 15K shows? Take Two Radio has over 1.7 million listeners. So if you're ready to take that next level for your business, contact Pam at take2radio@gmail.com.
And good evening, everyone. Now that we got all that out of the way, welcome to Take Two Radio. Tonight we have our special host, Dr. Mary-Barrett, and she has two guests, one at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. His name is David-Oman, and he is a producer, creator, and co-writer. And I'll let Mary tell you more about who he is, and, of course, when she starts talking to him. And then at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, we have guest Debra Muzikar. Is that how you say her last name, Mary?
I'm not sure either.
Oh. Well, she is an author of two books about autism, and one book is called Autism, the Art of Autism, which I think is pretty cool. And there's more to it, Shattering Myths and the Art of Autism. So we'll go ahead and let Mary get started. And David, I do believe I was able to pull your call up. Are you with us?
Yes, I'm with you.
Thank you so much. Mary, you guys take it away. Have fun. I'll be listening.
Whoa. Pam.
What?
Everybody, today's Pam's birthday, so let's say happy birthday to Pam.
Happy birthday, Pam.
Hope you had a good day.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes, I did. And now I'm going to have a good time listening to you guys talk. So go right ahead.
Okay. Hi, David. How are you?
Very good, Mary. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. You know, I'm really excited to hear about everything that goes on around you. It seems like the more I hear about you, the more I hear about you. Like there's a guy in New York I talk to all the time that says, I'm going to get a plane ticket and I'm going out to see David's house. And I'm like, okay. And then as soon as he's on, somebody else is mentioning your name. So why don't you tell us what all this yakking is about?
Well, I live in a house that my father and I built about, 15 years ago. We started it in 1999, 2000. And it just happens to be right down the driveway from where the Sharon Tate house stood. And I almost laugh because it's come to be known as the Sharon Tate Murder House, which it is not. Not remotely, not closely, not even by a long shot. Yet, because a lot of the television shows that I've been out here, which include 6 to date over the past decade now, starting with the Ghost Hunters, and then with my ghost story, Paranormal Witness, Haunted History, Ghost Adventures, and then 3 weeks ago, Ghost Adventures Aftershocks. And as I'm speaking to you right now, I'm a little stuttering because there seems to be another bit of activity. They're usually knocking over figurines on top of my aquarium, and today I got the luxury of seeing 2 Beetlejuice figurines knocked over, and one in the middle standing fully upright. So there's definitely some activity running around here today. Should be interesting.
I think activity has increased everywhere because my house is getting it too, and it's like, wow, something's going on. There's some kind of shift in the universe or something.
Well, something energetically is happening. I don't know where else it's happening, but I know here it's been kind of quiet for the past couple of weeks as far as the figurines and the activity, and all of a sudden, yesterday and now today, we've had a significant amount of interaction with the knocking over the figures. So it's something going on. There's definitely something afoot.
Yeah, a lot of people I've noticed are talking about how they can't sleep, and I'm one of them, but how they can't sleep and how some people are agitated, and it's just like, I don't know, something. I've heard there's a shift going on. I don't do astrology, but from what I understand, there's some type of shift coming. But getting back to you and your place, why don't you tell us
a little more?
People there?
Well, what it is that, let me first back up to the house. The activity has been present ever since we started building it. It seems as though there turns out to be a geomagnetic anomaly in the Earth, apparently here. And the way my father designed, and I guess the engineer designed the house, there's quite a bit of steel, which in those days there wasn't a lot of usage of steel I-beams in usage in construction of homes. Now there seems to be a lot more of it from what I've seen here in L.A. at least because of the earthquakes. But at the time when we built the house, we actually had constructed, there's two steel I-beams running across the third floor supporting that, connected to, three steel columns that are embedded in the gray beam, which is concrete reinforced with steel rebar. And it's basically tied into the 13 caissons, which are 3-foot diameter, I guess you call them pilings, which are just holes in the ground that go down into the bedrock, solid earth and solid ground, and then they're filled in with concrete reinforced with, again, steel. And then to the second floor, there's another pair of steel I-beams that are about 20 feet long that are connected to and supported by these other three steel columns. And as a result, the sandwiching effect created as a result of this amount of steel tied into this geomagnetic anomaly that exists here is made the third floor a complete, how would you say, a magnetic, like a magnetic box. So much so that when we take a crescent wrench, we left an 8-inch crescent wrench down there on top of the bar, and within a couple of weeks, that crescent wrench became completely magnetized. And we found this out by happenstance when we took one of the field compasses that we take, around the house to check out where the magnetic field is shifted to, because it'll literally affect the compass, so it'll spin around and it can't find true north to save its soul. And we went down there and we were on top of the bar counter and we were running it back and forth, and it was like, oh my God, as it gets near this crescent wrench, all of a sudden it starts to find north at one end and south at the other. And he goes, oh my God, it's magnetized. And that's when we realized that became magnetized just by sitting in the environment down there.
Right.
So
wow.
As a result, when Dr. Barry Taff was here, which I'm sure a lot of your listeners are familiar with from the Ghost Adventures and then from Ghost Adventures Aftershocks, had said, and I have his original reports and findings from when he'd done 10 years ago or 9 years ago when he was here originally. I have the original reports where he's written down all the different scientific findings that he had for the course of the scope of the year, and somebody else's reports as well. And at the time, his geomagnetometer would reach a top end of 2,000 milligauss, and it would top out there. Since then, we've brought in other pieces of equipment, and we've reached over 6,000 milligauss positive and 6,000 milligauss negative in parts of the house. So to give you an idea, normal is anywhere between 300 and 500 milligauss and positive. So the house has got an ambient, milligauss levels of anywhere between 50 to 100 times normal regular readings. And as a result, what Barry said is this is going back years ago, that when the spirit manifests, the meters, he's received measurements of up to like 2,000 milligauss, and then it returns down to 300 to 500 milligauss positive. In this house, he said, after 1 year and 20 investigations here, he said the house has got an ambient level of around 2,000 plus milligauss positive or negative, so that you can have a conductive energy that makes it very, very conducive for spirits to manifest. So when people come in, and he doesn't admit this now, but I've surmised, I said, so when people come in, the spirits that are around them can basically jump off and enjoy themselves and take the energy that's here in the house and move objects with much greater ease than in other locations. And he at the time said, yeah, something like that. And now he doesn't want to say it for whatever reason, I don't understand why, but I've got videotape of him from years ago when he was here saying things about spirits and stuff, and not, I'd say debunking, but contradicting what he said on the show, the last show, which in itself seems like it was mostly contradiction. But in any event, we've had voices, recorded on EVPs, on tape recorders, on electronic voice recording devices, and more than just one. I mean, multiple recorders that have captured the same EVP in the same area. So, we've done a lot of things here that have defied logic, and we've got video footage of a butcher block that fell off or spun off of a television set in the third level earthen wall room, as I call it. And what's funny is people say, it's because there was wind. When the guy opened the door, opening the door, it caused a vacuum of some sort that caused that piece of wood to move. And as I said, go to my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/david-oman, and I think it's one of the very first videos that's up there. And it's amazing because I went down there the very next day and put the board back where it was standing in the video, and I jumped up and down repeatedly. The board didn't move. I then tried to move the board in a fashion that was like to spin it off. It required enough force that it was like that doesn't just pivot on its own axis. You have to push it, and it barely even was able to do the move that I was asking for it to do, which is spin off, because it needs a high point to rest upon, because it's spun. Literally, the back of it spun around to the front, and literally the whole piece then fell off. And it was 2 feet by a foot by about 1 3/4 inches thick, and it weighed about 25 pounds. And if you watch the video, the kid even says when he goes back, he goes, and it weighs a lot. Feel how much it weighs. And we reviewed the earlier footage from like 2 hours earlier when we started the investigation here. And there's about, I'd say about 25 people that go through during the course and scope of the night in that same room. And there's not one person that touches the board where the board moves, and they're usually groups of 3s and 4s that are in there, including the same gentleman who was in there when, in fact, the board moved on its own. But the time that it happened, he was alone, and that's what my friend said. He goes, do you notice he'd been in there earlier? And I said, yeah, he did go in there earlier. And he goes, and look now, he went in by himself this time. And they said, yep, he went by himself. And he said, that's it. That's what it was. They wanted to get him while he was alone. And I was like shocked when he said that. I said, wow. I said, that's pretty interesting. They picked on him? And he goes, well, he'd already been there once. Why didn't they get him the first time when he was with other people?
Right.
So,
now, David, you wrote and produced the movie House at the End of the Drive. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that I created based on my experiences living here in the house, and, of course, experiences of my friends that told me some crazy stuff that happened to them, including my contract laborer who was here during the construction of the house. He had a wild experience, and we told that experience with Lance Henriksen playing the part of my contract laborer. But in truth, it was a 23-year-old El Salvadorian guy that was working here. It was a Finnish contract laborer. He was a Finnish contractor. So he was doing the tile work in the house and all of the marble and stuff to put it in. And he had this crazy experience during construction where he said that he was on the third level in the middle of July by himself. And it's about 6 o'clock. He's the last one here. He's working, and he hears voices and footsteps coming from the top floor. And he says it's about 90 degrees, late July, and I'm down there and I hear these voices and footsteps, and I come running upstairs because I figured it was you and your father. And I said, my father? He said, yeah. So I said, no, it wasn't us at all. He goes, no, I go upstairs and there's nothing there. And, oh, my dear God, oh, son of a gun. Sorry, sorry to say this, I just burnt some wonderful piece of bread, and it's smoking in my kitchen. So, as I said, so he basically goes and comes up here, says, there's no one here. He goes, on the street. There's no one on the street. He decides that's crazy. So he goes back downstairs and starts working. And he says 5 minutes later, he hears the voices and footsteps again from the top floor. So he goes running upstairs, says there's nothing here. He says, that's it, I'm leaving. He goes downstairs, starts packing his bags. He says within about 2 minutes, he starts hearing footsteps coming down the staircase. And they're getting louder and louder. And all of a sudden, they get to the landing, and there's no one there. And he says, I go out and I look, and I said, all of a sudden, my hair on the back of my neck stands straight up as this ice-cold breeze comes across the back of my neck. And I just, freeze out. And he says, I just freaked out, and I ran out of there. And I said, dos míos. Yeah, my boy. And he took off. Didn't come back for 6 weeks. No, 3 weeks. When he comes back, he says, he says, I need to get paid. And I said, what happened? He goes, I can't tell you until 6 months later when we were finishing the house, he told me.
Wow. Now, before all this started, before you went into this house, and what was your theories on the paranormal before this? Is this what turned you on to the paranormal, or have you had experiences?
I've always been interested in the paranormal and the and extrasensory perception since I was a kid, and second sight and stuff like that, clairvoyance, clairaudience. Stuff like that I was always fascinated by.
Would you say you have any of these abilities?
I'd say that I hear, I just pick up things. I get sense, just like anybody's got the intuition. I would say that's probably what I'm best at doing is the intuition. I pick things up just intuitively. I just know certain things, and I just say, okay, that's something I got to, somebody I can't, hang around with, that kind of stuff. Or, oh, wow, I said, that's interesting. What's that all about? There's something very intriguing about this person, and just finding stuff out. And it's like, okay, I knew that about this person. I knew that. And they go, how'd you know? It's like, I just had a feeling. I just got a sense of that situation. So it's just one of those things, I guess you could say. So.
Okay. You've had a lot of people coming in and doing investigations and stuff like that. Does that make you more aware and more sensitive to your abilities, would you say?
Yeah, kind of, sort of. I'd say that, I've had a lot of different people in groups here. We've had the luxury of having Lisa Williams come visit, James Von Prague, Chris Fleming, Jackie Barrett. I mean, it's just been a lot of people.
Does that help opening you up, though?
No, I'd say that if anything, it helped them a lot more. To me, no.
Oh, okay.
I don't believe in the fact that it doesn't rub off. People that are gifted hanging around, it's like, oh yeah, they're gifted, that's going to rub off on me. No, I don't ascribe to that theory. I don't think that they can that people. It's something that you just have to innately start to learn and let go, let happen, and let go of your fears of things, and be open to stuff. So that when you hear stuff, not to be so dissuasive and say, no, that didn't happen. No, that's not important. No, blah blah blah. The more you say no, the more you have less control over things.
Right. Now, with the investigations that come through your house and the mediums and the psychics and all, does that cause you to have more energy, more activity after they leave or while they're there?
People have asked me that a lot, and I've said, honestly, they said, well, after the investigations that you've been having with all the people, does the house become more agitated? Is it more problematic to stay in? And I say, no. It's kind of like when people leave the house after the investigations, the house basically goes back to zero. I mean, it goes not to zero, but it goes back to its normal way. It's like, as I said before, it's almost like a chemistry set. When you bring certain elements in contact with other elements, there's a kind of reaction. That holds true for the house. The house has its natural state of being for the most part, but as you bring different people in, there's different types of interaction in the house and play with the activity, if that makes sense.
Right. Do you think maybe you're so used to the paranormal activities that go on in the house that you don't pay attention to it?
Yes and no, but I mean, I've got stuff that's been videotaped, and I'm always amazed by stuff that happens. Like I said, when people are down there, and I'm like watching the videotape later on, and going, or the video of them and their interaction, going, oh, look at that. It's like, wow, that's pretty impressive. They got scared. They got scared out of they're wits. And I said, you're an investigator. Why would you get scared because you hear a sound? And then I realized what I'm watching is through the infrared light. They're basically in the darkness, and they hear the sounds going off. They don't know. So it's scary to them. It's like, well, I guess I give them a break when that happens. But for the most part, I think that standing tall to it is probably your best bet, because I've had stuff happen to me, and it's just like, okay, great, glad to see you're here, good enough. And it's like my carefree, casual attitude about it, things that happen. Like I said, I've seen glasses of wine slide across the dining room table on their own. I've had a full-body apparition manifest in front of my bed in the middle of the night. It didn't, jump out of bed and go, oh, my God, it's a ghost. I said, okay. I said, what are you here to tell me? And it's about perception. It's about, I think it has more to do with about perception than anything. And it's about the point of reference. If you think of it as like, okay, I'm blessed. It's like, why is that? Well, because there's activity that's happening here, and it's happening because it wants to, let me know that it's here. I don't take it as a threat. I take it as a form of communication.
Right.
I'm not, it doesn't. It's not. I don't take it as like it's a threat, like it's going to hurt me. Why should I take a threatened approach to life? If I live in the state of fear, then every type of response I'm going to have is going to be exactly that, based upon fear.
Right.
This is my theory, if there is such a thing, because I think all of paranormal is all theoretical, anyways, and nobody wants to admit it. No, it's all ego, as far as I'm concerned with the paranormal. I'm just saying I've seen too many people get bashed about, including myself, and it's like, saying, until you die, you won't have the slightest idea what the hell you're talking about. So you might as well table your theoretical shit and put it this way. Admit you're not so smart, because everything you say, all the devices and all the theoretical stuff cannot be scientifically proven and repeated in scientific terms and under the scientific scrutiny. And that's the truth. Anybody that tells you otherwise is full of crap.
Right.
And here are my three approaches. Oh, I just want to say, here's my three approaches to a situation. You have the stupid approach, which means you will have no conscious thought, no fear, and no respect for yourself or other things. So you'll probably get killed if you approach. Here's an example. You see a snake. You don't know if it's a rattlesnake or poisonous or not, but you're going up to it with a stupid approach, and you start putting your hand on it, you start touching it, you get bitten, and the next thing you know is you drop dead. Second approach is fear. You see it, you react accordingly, and you go, oh, my God, oh, my God, oh, my God, give me a stick, I'm going to beat the hell out of it and kill it. And then you're going to inspect it after it's dead, which might be the most rare snake on the planet and the last of its species. Needless to say, that's a fear-based response. The third is a response of curiosity. You approach it with self-respect and respect for it. Your approach is more like, all right, I see you, I don't know what you are. I am not afraid of you, but I am certainly respectful enough with you that I'm not going to put my hand stupidly into and near your mouth to get bitten. But I will deal with the situation accordingly and not freak out, because it's better to come from a composed, rational point of view and reference to the situation, because at least I'll have an ability to respond accordingly, and I give myself a fighting chance without killing it or killing me.
Right, so you're pretty nonchalant about the activity that happens in your home.
Yeah, I don't have any reason to feel threatened. Like I said, I've seen plenty of stuff. I've had people that have told me of strange occurrences of being in the bathroom and having the faucet turn on behind them and freak them out. And I said, okay, so there's water turn on. He goes, yeah, but I didn't turn it on. It went on by itself. At which point I said, that's pretty freaky. But I don't take it in this way. It's like, oh, my God, they're trying to hurt you. If they wanted to hurt you, I would say they could hurt you pretty damn well and bad. That's why I said I don't think it's an issue of hurt. I think it's just an issue of just wanting to be acknowledged.
Right. Now, have you had any investigators or any people that have come through to see what it was all about, go out running, that they're scared?
Yes.
Or...
Yes.
You have?
Yes, I have. I can only think of a few. But one in particular that comes to mind is a person that's bashing my credibility and person on the social media and has over 750,000 fans and followers. And I feel sorry for them, because the truth of the matter is that I'm not a fraud. I'm not anything of the sort. And I take that personally because he wrote it in his book, and I termed him now the nameless paraceleb. I don't use his name.
Yeah, I'm kind of aware of that feud, and I would kind of not like to get into
it. No, not a feud.
Here.
No. Let me set the record straight. There is no feud. He went and he was here a year and a half ago in September of 2013, shot his episode. You know, I was gracious and nice enough to allow them to come here after they asked if they could come here, and I said, yes, finally you can come here. And unfortunately, I woefully regret ever engaging with them ever, because the ego of that gentleman is unbelievably unparalleled on the arrogance
David,
of him. Yes.
David, let's go on to another different topic than this one.
Sure.
Like I said, I'm aware of the situation. So let's talk about your house, just what people get scared of. Why would they run from it?
This individual, as we were starting out, basically came in here and with their arrogance and their indolence basically did something that I told them was against my better judgment, which caused a lot of the problems that they had during their investigation, which was cut in half. But they basically, I don't know if you're familiar with the first episode of Ghost Adventures, there's a scene where there's a girl that's dressed in a nightgown, and according to one Dre Fordham, she had this experience when she drove up here several months earlier, that she saw the apparition of one Sharon Tate walking down the driveway, drenched in blood, in a white nightgown, pregnant, and clutching her stomach. At which point I told them, I said, this is a reenactment. I said, you shouldn't be doing it. I said, it's disrespectful. I said, it's disgusting. And I said, furthermore, I said, it's really in bad taste. And I said, I don't believe it ever happened. And I said there have to be other reenactments we can go with that you can do that have a little bit more credibility to them than this story. It doesn't ring true. And I said, if you do this, I have a bad feeling of what's going to befall you the next night when you do the investigation. And what's interesting is I was shooting still photographs because nobody told me I couldn't of this actress dressed up. And what's interesting is I have a photograph of her and one in the series, and there's a strange illumination right in the middle of her stomach, brilliant white light that's pouring out of this illumination source in her stomach. And there was no other picture that comes even close to having that. And there was nothing reflecting on anything. So, I mean, if you want, I'll post that up when I get a chance on your website, and you can see it for yourself. So the following night when they did the lockdown, they were an hour late because stuff was happening with them equipment-wise. And then during the lockdown, stuff was happening to them physically, and they were getting tormented, hurt. Like I said, Nick got burned on his stomach. Zach came running out of the house and fell down in front of my house on the ground and literally was just a puddle of mush. And I said, are you okay? And I looked him in the eyes, and he was just like, not there. And so I asked literally halfway through the investigation, middle of the morning, let's say, early mid-morning, they said, we're out of here. I said, you've only been here for a couple of hours. It's like 3.5 hours. They said, well, we had enough. Can't deal with it anymore. It's just too much. Just too much.
How about regular people, not so much, like investigators? Do you have, like, tours that come through, just regular people that come through to look, or is it mainly just investigators and stuff like that?
Well, what I've been doing is since, I guess, a year and a half, 2 years ago, I met Jason Gates, and Jason was enamored with the house and thought it was a great idea, what I was doing here with the house. And he says, why don't you do something more? Because he said, you're not charging anybody any money, and you're not really giving them what they really want. I said, what do they really want, Jason? He goes, put up the house with full-on infrared cameras. I said, okay. I said, how many? He goes, as many as you can get. He goes, I think the most at the time was 16. So he put the whole house up with infrared cameras. We had them all basically tied in together at the base station, which was in the garage. And we put up a screen, and we pulled it down. We had a projector that would project the image of all the 16 cameras, and we would conduct investigations, he said. And we'd get a couple of paranormal investigators and get a medium, and we would do a whole thing. We'd get all the equipment, and we would basically run a 7-hour or 8-hour paranormal investigation here at my house and we would do them like a paranormal investigations like they do at all these other different haunted locations. And I said, okay. And I said, all right. So Jason basically got busy with another project, and he said, look, I can't do it, but I think you should do it. I said, you know something, I am. What the hell? I've been having people walk through for the past 10 years and showing them the house for half an hour. I said, and I've been doing the other thing with private investigation crews that were coming in here to do paranormal investigations with teams and stuff. And I said, you know something, why not? So I met up with some friends of mine and brought them in to do the investigations and told them that everybody's going to get paid for their time. And basically we started doing the paranormal investigations, and we brought in a friend of theirs who's a medium, and she started doing seances, and a whole big event where I would have the whole place, you know, I'd have catered, not catered, but we'd have a whole, what do you say, a whole plate, table full of hors d'oeuvres and drinks and stuff, and we would bring in 20 people, and we would do these investigations. And we brought in Chris Fleming on one occasion for one weekend. He was here in October, and you know, he was the star attraction, and he was leading the investigations and doing EVPs and sessions, and it was just, you know, great, and people just loved it. And I said, you know, I don't have to do this, but if people have the demand and interest and, you know, send emails to me that they want to do it and they want to come back and their friends want to, I said, fine, we'll do it for them. I said, you know, it's a lot of work to pull these things off, and it's like I said, having 20-some-odd people that you don't know come into your house for a paranormal investigation for 7 hours is a lot of stress. So, you
now,
know,
it's like
I'm doing one. Yeah.
Do they go through your whole house, or do you just have certain parts partitioned off?
I'd say it's pretty much the whole house with the exception of 2 rooms, which is my bedroom, because I put my 2 large ridgebacks in there. Yes, Fiona, I'm talking about you. And the cats, my 3 cats go in the other room so that I don't have to have worries about people being allergic to dog or cat. It makes it a lot easier, and it also makes it easier when they don't get jumped upon by my big dogs or my cats. So
how many rooms are we talking about? Like, can you give us a verbal walkthrough of your house?
The house is broken up into 3 floors. The top floor consists of the kitchen, the dining room, the living room, and next to that is the den. Then the second floor consists of the hallway, which is very active, my office, and my laundry. Let's see, my office, the hallway, and the laundry room, which is also the egress to the back of the house, which has had a lot of stuff that we've recorded there, video-wise and still photograph-wise. And then the floor below that is the guest bedroom, the theater room, the man cave, and the earthen wall room, and the guest bathroom down there as well. So it's a pretty large, piece of real estate that we're talking about.
Now, how many people live in this house?
You're talking to them.
Okay. So you feel the middle floor, the second floor hallway, is the most active in the house?
No, I'd say that's very active. We've done a lot of stuff on there, but the third level is very active, and so is the top floor. I mean, it all has a different energy. Like I said, when you hit the third floor, when it's wound up, you get down closing in on it, and your head starts to spin because there's so much pressure in your eyeballs and behind your eyeballs. It's like, oh my God, I can't breathe. It's like, yeah, no kidding. It's like it's just suffocating sometimes. So it's pretty intense.
Well, I have a weird question.
Yes.
Because at my house, one time right before we remodeled here, I went outside, and it was like somebody was having a party. Now, this is a trailer with add-ons that I'm in, and when I went outside, it sounded like there was a lot of commotion going on in my house.
Right.
Now, do you have that? Can you hear, the commotion or anything outside that could be happening in the house?
No, not that I've ever noticed, but I've watched some videotape recently, one of the 2 recent tapes that are on there, I think it's from February of this year, where there's 3 people down in the theater room, and it's dark, and Philip Pierce walks into there and says, hey, well, I heard you guys were looking for some activity, but you guys are really quiet tonight. And then all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of commotion out of the corner of the room, and you can hear something jostling around in the plastic boxes and the cases. The UCLA mini helmets are like jostling around the cases, and I'm like, holy, what the hell is going on? It's like, well, somebody's letting them know they're here. And you see the 2 girls, they're sitting on the couch, get up and say, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And they run out of the room, and Philip goes, thank you very much, that was cool. and then you can hear the boxes continue to be rattling as they're going up the stairs, and you can hear their voices of Phil going, "That was cool. That was so cool." And the boxes are still going bang, 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 bang. And I'm going, oh, nice.
My son has gone outside. There was a police officer in our yard. He went outside, and there was no police officer. It was just, a ghost passing through. And we get that a lot, inside and outside. So I was just wondering if you had it outside also.
No, I haven't noticed anything. I mean, like I said, when we're inside, we can hear sometimes singing coming from the bottom floor. And it's like, who the hell is that? It's like, no, there's no one down there. What do you mean, who the hell? There is no one the hell. That's a little girl's voice. What do you mean, who the hell? It's like, oh, like, yeah, that's her.
Have you actually tried to talk to her?
I've tried, but this is my own personal thinking about that. They intermittently will overlap our plane of existence. Otherwise, it's very infrequent. And unless it's something major that needs to be communicated, it's a motion of overlap is what I call it. I say it's very, very few and far between. And if you think that you can sit there and try to have a one-on-one conversation when you're passing on one train at 100 miles an hour in one direction and somebody else is on another train passing you at 100 miles an hour in the opposite direction, it's pretty slim chances to none that you're going to be able to have it. That's why I said people that state that they can, how should we say, tell a spirit to go into the light. I find a lot of problems with that personally. But, everyone's entitled to what they want to think. It's just when you start to make such claims and you're starting to play upon people's fears and, the thing that pissed Houdini off, which is people are profiting off of other people's, losses, and you shouldn't be doing that because it's just outright wrong. That's why I don't really care for people that sell that type of, promise. It's like, really? You got to, it takes two to tango, as my mother said. And if the other party isn't available, who the hell are you talking to then? That's where the specifics of, that. That's why people say, oh, you talk to Sharon Tate? It's like, no, I do not. And I laugh because it's like, I never said that I said she's talked to me. I've heard her spirit's voice once in a while, and that was more years ago than it is present day. But it's like, no, I'm not a gosh-darn medium. I never claimed to be. Never would dare say to be. I'd be scared to say that. Unlike other individuals who I've heard have said this.
Well, I'm a psychic.
I know. We're not going to talk about that. So, all right.
No. But I'm a psychic medium, and I do connect with the people who've passed over, and I do have full conversations with them when, their family asks me. But what I think mostly is very important for people to realize is that when they are talking to a medium or a psychic, they need confirmation, stating that they are talking to the person who's passed over.
Okay.
And recently, I lost my uncle, and we were there when he passed. And he said some things like he let me know that my grandmother was there and my father was there. And no, he was not a medium, and he was not a psychic either. But, there are some psychic mediums out here that really do communicate. And the best thing that I can offer advice to anybody on that is get confirmation. Then you know for sure. And, with you having all that activity in your house and they're coming to you, that's why I asked if you were a medium because, that's what happens to mediums. People do come to them. And I've been on an investigation in Oklahoma, and they had the box there, and they were calling my name, and I was out in a different room, and I had to come in and see what they had to say, which was nothing actually. But, this paranormal, you need to know what you're doing. You need to know what you're dealing with and who you're dealing with, and make sure that they are very credible.
Oh, I would say absolutely. Believe me, I've seen a lot of individuals come through and state things and stuff, and I kind of use the house as a barometer. If they can stay in the house for X amount of time, okay. If they can't, well, I have a feeling there's a reason why they're being flushed out of the house in such a rapid fashion. So.
Right. And, some people kind of feed on it and feed on the people that are still here. I agree with that when you said that. That's why I said confirmation is very important. And also, when you were saying about your abilities, you know, what type of abilities? Now, I know you said you wouldn't claim yourself to be a psychic medium or whatever, but you are in touch with the spirits. They do show themselves to you, and they do let you hear them talk or sing or whatever. What would you say your abilities are?
Again, I've never really tried to, put them down in a specific type of a way. I wouldn't say that I really have any abilities. It's just an intuition type of thing.
But don't you think it's a little bit more than intuition if you can actually see these people and you hear them?
Well, again, I only saw once in my lifetime a full-body apparition. That was 10 years ago. I think it's 11 years ago come July when I saw that. And that was about 6 months before my mom died. Outside of that, like I said, hearing them is just like I said, other people and I have heard voices, and it's like, did you hear? It's like, yep, I heard that. It's like, son of a bitch. And it's like, yeah, and then somebody, if we're being recorded either by a video recorder or by a sound recording device, we play it back, and it's like, oh, did you hear that? It's like, yep, I heard that. It's like, son of a bitch. I knew I heard that. That's why I say it's more intuition, because it's not, like I said, I hear things, I'm lucky enough to do so, but it's also that when I obviously have friends here, they also can confirm that they heard it and stuff. Wow.
And what would you say is the most...
I don't know if you can hear that, but there's a helicopter literally flying right over my head. How the hell close was that? That was low. Wow. That was well under 400.
What would you say is the most interesting part of what you've experienced?
Honestly, I'd have to say that the thing that I've experienced on several occasions is the fact that other people that I've been here, one was a friend of mine who was staying here 2 weeks after his brother committed suicide a few years back. He was out here to kind of like unwind and get his head collected. And, he was here for 3 days and 3 nights in the haunted guest bedroom on the 3rd floor. And we waited for something to happen and nothing happened. And finally, the last night he was here, I went downstairs to feed the cats, and one of the sofa chairs moved 6 inches to straighten out, then slid back 3 feet, then hit the rails going out to the balcony where he was standing, smoking a cigarette, and the sofa chair flipped over on its own, and basically he freaked out, and I came running upstairs as soon as I heard the commotion, and said, what the hell is going on? He goes, I didn't do anything. He repeated to me what I just told you about the sofa chair's movements. And I said, I heard the sound of something sliding across the floor and then something hitting it. It's like, I heard it completely. And he goes, that's what that was. So at that point I said out loud, I said, Sharon, Jay, is this you? And a voice responded, say, his brother. And I said, I don't have a brother. And he goes, and I said, it must be related to you and your brother. And he looked up and he said to me, he goes, you didn't know my brother. And I said, no, I honestly didn't. And he says, he was a practical joker. And I said, oh my God. And he says, he's letting me know he's okay. And I said, that sounds about right. And it fits so well. I said, okay, that makes sense to me. So that's basically what one of the experiences, and he basically got, as he said, it felt like a great relief off of his shoulders because he was so worried. Another similar experience is when we had one of the investigations here in October of last year. One of the medium that was doing the seance, Lilia, said that she felt there was somebody there whose father, who's having a difficult time of dealing with their father. That father had passed, and it was very, very recent, within the past 2 or 3 years. And this one girl said, yeah, that's me. And she goes, oh, your father passed? She goes, of cancer, huh? She goes, yeah, it was a cancer. And she goes, yeah, he's very much around you. And she goes, oh, I'm so happy to hear that. During the seance, we had 3 recorders and a video camera shooting. And I remember in the middle of it, I said, guys, I just heard something. I said, stop the seance. And Lilia said, she goes, why? I said, just trust me. I said, play the EVP, play the recorders back, please, play them back. I kept stuttering because I just felt like so strongly about right now. We've got to hear it right now. So they picked up one of the recorders, they played it back, and there was a man's voice, and it was like this, like right on top of the microphone, and the voice said this very clearly, "Let it go, mija." And I said, oh my God. I said, play the other recorder back. So we played all three recorders. All three recorders came up with the same voice, saying the exact same thing in the same tonal qualities, right up against the mic, saying, "Let it go, mija." At which point, I just looked around the table, and all of a sudden, my eyes focused on her, and I said, and I then Lily, oh, get a load of that. As I said that to you, they just knocked over the figurine. What I was going to say was, we ended up looking at her, and she ended up saying, "Oh my God, that's my father's voice." Hold on one quick sec.
Okay, I guess David wanted to check something here. Pam, are you on here? Okay, I guess Pam was gone too. Oh, well, all along. Okay, guys, as I told David, I am a psychic medium. Most of you know
here.
Hey,
I'm
girl.
here, but I can't answer right away when it's on mute.
So the girl ended up.
Go ahead, back.
So the girl ended up bursting into tears and saying, "That's my father's voice. That's my father." The same girl who said, and she admitted, she goes, my dad died 2 years ago. I have not been able to go on with my life since he died. I miss him so terribly. I can't let go of him. I can't let go. And she goes, now I feel he's telling me directly to go on with my life. And I felt such a warmth about it, saying, something, when you can get off it, when something like that happens, to me, I get the biggest, I guess, just the biggest, warmest feeling about that thing. Saying I'm glad, again, with her and again with my friend, I'm not going to say his name, but my other friend with his brother who committed suicide. I felt such a sense of just happiness for them that I was able to allow them to have an opportunity to have something that really helped them along with what they were thinking and dealing with. So,
well, I'll tell you, I did a show up in Ohio last year, and I had this lady. I went up to her, and I said, your husband's here. And I said, he's telling me something about a necklace. And she started crying. She said, I asked my husband before I came that if he was with me to have you mention the necklace. And she pulled the necklace out, and she showed me, and she said, this has his ashes in it. So she was really glad to get the message also. So a lot of the people that do go to seances or psychic meetings and whatnot, they're looking for answers. And that's why it's important to have a confirmation. And the woman
like I said, to me it was amazing because I don't believe a lot in the other intermediary devices, because from what I've seen, and I've seen a lot of these toys and devices, if you can get it without any secondary type of an effusiary box, Frank's box, a spirit box, whatever they want to call it, and you get it on an EVP on the recorders, I've seen here countless times, and every time the voices on the real EVPs are breathy, right on top of the microphone, very, very clear, and not, unfortunately, like the Ghost Hunters one from 10 years ago with a wah, 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 wah. That just doesn't cut it. That's not a solid EVP in my mind. The stuff we've had has been pretty much like jump or kill you or will haunt you. I mean, it's really clear and like always right on top of the mic, like, look at you now. And it's so breathy, it's like, okay, that's crazy. And we have it on audio, on video recordings as well, where the voice comes right into the mic. I'm going, okay, that's pretty strange. That's just not anybody's voice in the room, and it's right on top of the mic, and it's some otherworldly voice. So,
right, equipment has changed over the last 10, 15 years also, and it's progressed, which has helped everybody be able to get a clearer voice, which is really, really good.
Yeah, but I mean, when you take a regular standard tape recorder and you do an EVP session, there's no way that there's less chance of a non-believer or a skeptic to come back at you and say, well, and I am, in my own belief, have to be a skeptic. because to come in things with a little bit more skeptical approach, because I figure somebody's going to use the same type of scrutiny that I have to use for my own good when they come into my house. So why wouldn't I want to afford the same type of skepticism when I'm going and looking at other devices that have been brought here through the years? Personally,
right.
give me a regular recorder, a tape recorder, or electronic recorder, and there's less problems in people saying that it's not actually being recorded, by just transmission of a voice, not through a secondary intermediary device. And it's a lot less expensive on the pocketbook for those that are ghost investigators, because I've seen a lot of gadgets, and they're great and all. I put it this way. Somebody's making some good money on creating these little devices. Whether or not they've been proven scientifically to work, to my standards, stands to is another story personally. And I've seen the pieces of equipment that are out there made from components of the Xbox, so that they'll scan a room and they'll give you a radar image of a stick figure if somebody else is in the room with you. That's $1,500, I said. I don't want to be spending $1,500 for a game, for a game console turned into a paranormal piece of investigating equipment. It's a little bit hefty price tag. And, I finally bellied up to the point and got a FLIR infrared camera, thermal imaging camera, which is terrific for $600 on eBay. But, I wouldn't spend $3,500 of my own money to invest in that personally. I think it's a lot of cash to lay out. And unless you've got that kind of disposable income, it's really something that, I think people can do without.
Right. Well, that's another way of confirmation, too. So, there's so many different ways that people are investigating the paranormal that, we're all working together out here and we're all trying to do hopefully the right thing, and going the right way about it. So, and I know some people don't go the right way about it, which makes it harder on the rest of us that do. But do you want to tell them a little bit where they can get in touch with you, or do you have a website?
Sure. Well, you can go to youtube.com/david-oman, which is where we got the videos from the house and the investigations. Then on Facebook, we have the Oman House Paranormal Investigation Tours. I think we've got, as a matter of fact, 2 weeks from tonight on the 1st of May and 2 weeks from tomorrow night on the 2nd of May. We have 2 investigations going on here from 8 in the evening to 3 in the morning. You can look it up on eventbrite.com, and you can type in Oman House Tour, and you'll find, I'm sure it'll drop you right into that. Then there's houseattheendofthedrive.com, which briefly is about my story living in this house with with a paranormal activity. It's not a paranormal activity type of reality-esque movie. It's a regular old-fashioned story, narrative, as they say, and it's fun. I actually just got it rated by the MPAA, so it's an R rating. It'll hopefully be coming out this summer with any luck. And then, like I said, look us up on YouTube under David Oman. And also House at the End of the Drive on YouTube as well. And if anybody wants to go, they're $99 per ticket for the 7-hour investigation, which includes a House at the End of the Drive, I Survived the Oman House black T-shirt, and also includes all the food and drink. We don't nickel and dime you. Once you're in, you can take as many pictures and videos as you want and eat to your heart's content, because I put out a full spread of vegetarian platter as well as a full cheese platter and some turkey meatballs and regular meatballs and drinks. So it's really, as one person said, it's amazing for what we provide them with. And I said, no. I said, I hate going to little investigations and paying $150 for 3 hours and paying $5 for a can of soda and $3 for a bag of chips. I just don't do that. And I think it's much better, for people when they get more, they get more than they expect, and they come here, and that's usually the case.
Yeah, I bet you in more ways than one, too, huh?
Yeah, they find out they have some spirits around them, and they didn't know that were there. It's like, oh, my God. It's like, yeah, you've got a lot of spirits around you, honey. You'd be surprised. It's very, very active around you.
Well, David,
as you've seen, obviously.
Thank you so much for calling in. We're running out of time, and I really appreciate you being on tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you very much again. And if you're ever out in L.A., give me a call and stop by.
Yeah, that'd be very interesting. My son lives out in California, so you never know.
Oh, make plans to visit. I'm telling you, you'll be like, oh, my God, this place is incredible. I mean, I'm telling you, I've had shaman here, and they've gone, this place has got such great healing energy. I said, I appreciate that. He goes, no, thank you for letting me come here. My rheumatoid arthritis has disappeared, and then 6 months later I'm getting a call saying it's still gone. It's amazing. Your house has got such great energy. Contrary to what other people say about it, even including Barry, who, got scared to death of coming back here, and that was a little, Barry basically wanted things his way, and I said, Barry, I can invite who I want, when I want, and how I want. It's my house. So that was another little misnomer. I still like Barry, and he's entitled to his opinions, as is everyone. It's just about respect, which I think is what the key word in life is. It's about respect.
There you go. All right, David, on that, we'll talk to you soon then, okay? Hopefully we'll see you soon.
Take care. Thank you again for having me on.
And thanks for coming. Bye-bye.
All right, take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. You guys, make sure you go check him out. I've heard his house is really, really good to go look at. And it's a good experience, too. Also, I've heard a lot of good things about his movie, The House at the End of the Drive. So go check it all out. And I hope to get up to California where I'll be able to go. And that'll be shortly, hopefully. All right. Most of you know that I'm a psychic medium. If anybody's interested, they can check me out at www.mary-barrett, barrett.org. So, yeah, that would be a very interesting place for me to investigate. All right. Our next person just called in. Pam?
Yep. Let me pull her on the phone.
Okay.
Debra?
October is...
Yes?
Debra?
Yes?
Hi. How are you?
Hi, Mary.
Hi. Would you mind pronouncing your last name for us?
Muzikar.
Okay.
Yay, I had it right.
Yeah, we were...
Again,
we'll remind everybody, get on Facebook and shoot Pam a happy birthday. And you know what? She told me she hit 21 again.
Yeah,
okay.
No, that's okay, Mary. I put on the calendar every single year 30, so we're okay with 30. So that's it.
Oh, 30. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, Debra. We were talking before about you've written some books, and autism is the month of April.
Yes, Autism Awareness Month.
You have a son who has autism, and I have been following you for a couple of years now on Facebook. I went through, the problem that you were having, which, if you don't mind, we'll go into. And, I've kind of kept up to speed. I've seen some of your son's art, which is really, really good.
Yeah.
But why don't you go ahead and tell us his name and age and walk us through anything on this that you want to tell us.
Well, we've had a really interesting journey. My son, Kevin, his last name's Hosseini. He's 20 now. And we started our journey with his diagnosis when he was 3 in a small town of Carpinteria. It's on the California coast. It's by Santa Barbara. And what was really nice about living there is we were able to get services through the UCSB Kegel Autism Center, which is one of and it's an international center for autism. So we felt very fortunate to be there. Kevin had the typical things of autism are like lack of social skills. He was lining up his toys. He would repeat phrases. He had trouble making friends. In preschool, he'd knock over the other kids' toys. There was just a lot of indicators that he had developmental delays. It wasn't until we took him to the Kegels that we got a formal diagnosis. Anyway, so Kevin grew up in Carpinteria. What is notable is that a therapist through the Kegel Autism Center introduced him to art when he was only 9 years old. And I thought he was just going to scribble all the time because that's all he did before. But Kevin really took off. He liked the art, and he went from watercolors one week to acrylic the next week into oils within like 3 or 4 weeks. And then he just started painting all the time, and he painted with this therapist who came into our house twice a week. And we just started piling up the canvases. And then some people became interested in Kevin's art, and we sold our first piece or gave it away, I think, to charity. And then people wanted to buy it. And so Kevin started getting a little reputation as an artist. And I entered him into some exhibits. A curator noticed him, and I think by the time he was 17, he was in the Museum of Modern Art in Kiev, the Ukraine. And then he won a national contest, and he was at the Smithsonian. We went to Washington, D.C., and then the State Russian Museum. Well, during his adolescence, which was quite difficult, adolescents with autism, especially boys, a lot of time, everything, they feel things so intensely. It's like if hormones times 100. Well, Kevin developed schizoaffective disorder during this time. And so it was just, it was pretty serious. He was in a psychedel. He was all over the place emotionally. It took a long time to get his medications stable. Now they are. He's 20 years old. But this was like at age 13, 14. It was when he was in junior high.
Debra, I was a special ed teacher down in Florida, and I had a child in my class that had autism. What I was told about people with autism, they're on the other realm. They're very high intelligence.
Yes.
Their IQs are very, very high. And
some of them are
gifted.
very high. They have a different type of intelligence, I believe.
Okay.
It's not like a typical type of intelligence. They're very sensitive people, and they could pick up information from the world. I think that's one of the reasons why there is an increase in autism, actually. I think it's kind of an evolutionary thing.
Okay. Do you have a history of that in your family?
No, we don't. No history.
Okay.
Although
good.
when I look back, I had a lot of issues as a child. I had selective mutism, and I wasn't talking. I probably, may have been diagnosed on the spectrum. Girls manifest differently than boys, but I really worked on myself with social skills and those kind of things, so I could kind of see maybe it came from my side.
Right. So you're not sure if that's hereditary, though, at this point?
Well, there is no gene that causes autism.
Right.
Autism is a behavioral diagnosis.
Right.
And we really don't know what causes autism right now. All we know is that there's a tremendous increase of people that are coming in with autism.
Right. Well, one problem that I did have with being a special ed teacher, well, there was a couple of problems that I had, was discrimination.
Well, that's part of my story.
Yep, I know you're headed that way, but I just want to tell the audience that what I experienced was with my special ed students, the so-called normal students would pick up the special ed students and dump them in garbage cans.
Oh, well, I've heard so many stories like that.
We'd hear over the intercom, and now this is high school, where I was teaching. My autism child was in middle school where I taught, but in the high school, they would come over the intercom saying, so-and-so's in a trash can, can somebody go help? And there's a lot of discrimination against it where there shouldn't be. And I have a problem with people trying to label. I understand labeling is important for a diagnosis, but I don't really feel a child should be put in a certain category. My kids had ear infections growing up, and because a school psychologist could not understand my daughter, they were telling me she was mentally retarded, and she wasn't mentally retarded. She had ear infections that affected her speech, and sometimes I think people are too fast to label. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
I know
the label helps get services.
Yes.
And it also can inform the child about why they're different. I mean, I think children need to have information about why other kids are being mean to them or rejecting them, or why people tell them to stop doing something, you know. Sometimes they don't know that they are maybe wired differently, and I think that's important. You know, I just did a project with 90 autistic people, 90 blogs in 6 weeks, and one of the things that came out from that was it's really important to know why you're different.
Right.
And not just think you are mentally ill or, you know, some freak of nature. No, you are processing the world in a different way than most people process. Especially if you have autism, you're very sensitive to the environment. And you have to know these things. You have to know that maybe it's the bright lights, or it's too many people, or it's the noise that can trigger feelings within inside yourself.
Right. Now, we were talking about discrimination. Do you want to tell them what happened with Kevin?
Well, what happened with Kevin is he had a really difficult time in high school because he now had 2 labels. It was the autism and the schizoaffective disorder label. And he had different behaviors. It took him a long time to get him on medication and get him stable. Well, he had a teacher his junior year who was yelling at him a lot, and I didn't know about it. A parent called me and told me that Kevin had been at a park out of town with the class, and they were playing soccer, and Kevin or some other student kicked the ball and hit the teacher, and the teacher turned around, and Kevin was the closest student to her. Well, she just went off on Kevin and started yelling. Well, Kevin ran away from that park, and he was out of town. He was 20 miles from our town, Carpinteria, and they had to, jump in the car and find him. They never reported this to me. I found out from another parent, so I called the school. There's a mandatory reporting that if something happens that puts your child in danger, you're supposed to notify the parents. Well, I wasn't notified. But this parent called me a couple days later and said she was horrified by what she saw, and that she had witnessed Kevin being yelled at by that teacher many times. And I talked to Kevin about it, and he said, yes, he had ran away. He was going to run away to Mexico. Well, they found him on the street, and they got him, I guess, calmed down. Kevin didn't mention it to me, but when I asked him a couple of days later, he told me. Well, then I said, well, Kevin, if the teacher's yelling at you, you need to tell her, please talk to me in a calm voice, because it really upsets Kevin or any autistic person to be yelled at. It's just something you don't do. And so the next day, I think it was like a Friday, I went to pick up Kevin early because we had an event with drumming. Kevin really does well with drumming. And the teacher came out. She didn't see me from the class. Kevin had walked out because he saw me, and she was yelling at him again. And it was in front of me this time. And I told Kevin, does she do this to you often? And he said, oh, yes, all the time. And I said, well, you could tell her, please talk to me in a calm voice. Well, she came out, and I said, Kevin, do you have something to tell her? And Kevin, of course, is very shy, and he didn't say anything. I said, well, I think Kevin wants to talk to him in a calm voice. Well, so as the time went on, we found that the teacher was still yelling at him when she's driving a car. Kevin just fell apart one day. He was crying at the community college, and it was a big incident. and it was because she had yelled at him when he was in the van when they were going there. And so I filed a formal complaint. That was Kevin's junior year. Well, what happened was the teacher was put on a 2-week suspension, or while they did an investigation. And they found that she didn't do anything wrong, because this is kind of how the schools work. But during that 2 weeks that she was off, she had a party at her house, and everybody in the class was invited except for Kevin. And it was during school hours, and she encouraged all the parents to walk out with their kids in protest of the complaint I made. And so she had this party. I didn't find out about the party until like a year or two later, but the school administration, I'm certain, knew about it. Well, we thought everything was going to be okay because Kevin's going to be a senior. So as a senior, he had a great teacher, a great year. But then it comes to transition, and transition is something that kids with disabilities, they get an extra 3 or 4 years of high school from 18 to 22 if they don't have a high school degree. And Kevin didn't have a high school degree, so he was eligible for transition services. Well, the same teacher that had yelled at him when he was a junior, was put in charge of his transition class. And it was like we tried to get him into another transition program, and they said no, and we tried all kinds of things to get him into a different program. Well, they said, well, we'll have an intervention with this teacher, with the school psychologist, and we'll be able to work it all out. And so we met with the teacher, with the psychologist, and we said we're going to just start it off clean. We'll everything will be fine this year, and we'll keep Kevin away from the teacher because he'll have a one-on-one aide, and that aide will be the buffer. So Kevin did have a really good aide, Eric, and Kevin went to community college. He took an academic class. He took a fitness class. And the transition program was mostly about, taking college classes, and Kevin had a job at Giovanni's Pizza. Well, during the first couple months, it was like in October, Kevin started having problems with his medication, and he started falling apart. Well, the teacher really didn't know it because he was exhibiting symptoms at home, not really at school. And so Kevin went into a psychiatric hospital in November of 2013. And during that time, when we admitted to him, this is just like a comedy of errors, the psychiatric hospital didn't administer his medication correctly, and for 2 days he didn't have 2 of his medications at all. So he was way off balance. And it was Thanksgiving that week, and he had a meltdown on Thanksgiving, and he threatened some people. And the people he threatened while in the hospital, one of them was the teacher. And so what happened, under law in California, I think it's a national law, there's something called the Terra-Soft reporting system, where you have to, if somebody makes a threat, the people that they're threatening have to be informed. And so that happened, that the teacher was informed that Kevin made a threat while he was in a psychiatric hospital. Well, Kevin had never harmed this teacher. He'd never hit anybody. And the teacher took it on herself to organize a huge, meeting, and she put emergency protection orders out against Kevin. She signed emergency protective orders for another student in the class who had Down syndrome, and she encouraged her aide to sign it, emergency protection orders. So when Kevin came out of the hospital, he was served with 4 emergency protection order documents. So he had stay-away documents from these people, and it prevented him from going to his transition program. So we were pretty traumatized by that, because by the time he got out of the hospital, he was completely stable and he was better than ever. But it was just like he had a medication issue, and he took care of it. And so we were really proud of Kevin that he, number one, that he admitted himself to the hospital voluntarily because he wanted to get better, and he was punished for that. And so what happened was the teacher got the union involved, got the administrators involved, and they said that Kevin can't be on the campus anymore. And we had to get special permission to have Kevin in an isolated room off campus. It was actually in a mobile home park where his aide worked. His aide was threatened as well, but he did not file emergency protection orders. In fact, he said that they tried to convince him to file them, but he just couldn't do it because he knew Kevin better than anybody else, and he didn't think he was a threat.
Right.
Anyway, I mean, it's this whole, like, I don't know what happened, but it was, like, just crazy. And so what happened was that there's a lot of things that happened. The teacher got him suspended from the junior college finals week because she went to the dean with the emergency protective order and said Kevin should not be on the junior college. We had to get special permission for Kevin to finish his college classes, and she tried to prevent him from going to his job at the pizza place where he works every week, and I had to call the sheriff to get Kevin to go to his job, and because it's a civil rights that people should be able to attend a job. Kevin was totally stable by this time.
Do you think maybe this teacher was out for revenge for some reason?
Oh, yes, she was out for revenge. Because I had filed a complaint against her 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, and she had been put on leave for 2 weeks.
Right. Okay. Go ahead, continue. I know what happened. I'm just letting you tell the audience what happened.
Excuse me?
I said I know what happened. I was following your story all the way through on Facebook.
Oh, yeah. So, well, what happened is that Kevin, we had an IEP. An IEP is an education plan where you have a team meeting. So everybody was at the school, by the way, nobody from the school had seen Kevin in the first 2 weeks he was out of the psychiatric facility except his aide. And so we have an IEP, and there is this momentum to get Kevin out of his hometown. And I had heard from an insider that the emails were flying and they had to get Kevin out of, Kevin was seen as this big threat. Now, Kevin has never hit a teacher. He has never, cussed at a teacher. He's had altercations with other students, but he hasn't, Kevin has low muscle tone. He's a big kid, but he's just, he's never done anything really. But anyway, so they had a meeting, and I had Kevin tape recorded for the meeting of what he wanted to do, and he wanted to stay in his local community and go to his college. He liked the college. He wanted to work at the same job. He liked working at the pizza place. He was living with between his dad and my place, and his dad's in that town, and he's really close with his dad. But the way it went was that they decided that Kevin would stay in the community, but he couldn't be in the class. He couldn't be near any of the other students. And so there was a backlash that came because the other parents now were involved, and they did not want Kevin in the class. And so after a couple of days, we decided we'll go with the alternative, and they had found a program in Ohio for Kevin, and it was the Monarch Autism Center in Ohio, and it's a really highly rated place. And so Kevin went to Ohio for about 8 or 9 months. And during that time, it was really good. It was a good experience for him, although he really missed home. He was in Ohio when they had all the snowstorms, and it was hard being away from home. But they funded that program for Kevin, which is extremely expensive, and they funded our trips out to Ohio to visit him. They also funded Kevin to come back to California for the summer, for part of the summer. Okay, is there any questions to that point? Because,
I think Pam has a question for you.
Okay, because there's more to the story, but talking a lot.
Yeah, I'm not sure she has a question on this or on something else. Pam?
No, my questions are actually not on this part.
Okay.
I'll just go ahead and ask them while I'm on.
We found a place. I moved out of the town because of the backlash. I'd been there for 17 years. I have two other daughters. They had gone to school in Carpinteria. Kevin had gone all the way through the school. Kevin had friends and people who knew him. Kevin used to ride his bike around town. It's a really small town. It's only 17,000 people. It's a surf town. Kevin would surf in the summer. He was in kayaking. He did drumming. He was pretty well known, and he had art exhibits in town. Anyway, but this teacher went on this campaign, and so it ended up we went back for an IEP. It was in May, and it was on the front page of the Coastal View, which is the local newspaper, that parents had come to the school board because they were upset because they saw Kevin as this big threat, and they did not want him back in the community. And so we realized, well, Kevin just has to move. I mean, he's not going to be accepted in this community because this teacher and there were a lot of lies that were told. I mean, I just can't get into how many lies she said about him that came back to us, things that just were way not true and really inflammatory. But there was really nothing I could do because the only thing I could do is sue her, and that's very expensive. And we were happy that Kevin was placed in a good placement. He was in a private school where he was getting really good treatment and learning different skills that was not being taught to him in that program. Anyway, so they only fund temporary placements outside of California they try to make them less than a year. So we brought Kevin back to California in December. And I found a placement for him in El Conejo, and he's going to school there, and he's doing really well. He works at Walgreens. He participates in Special Olympics. He is taking piano lessons. They bought a piano at the home he's placed at, and he's going to be here pretty soon. We're going to go to this chalk festival tomorrow with him. But he's doing really great. But it's just, I don't know what happened. It's just really crazy.
But he seems to be adjusting now, though, correct?
What?
He seems to be adjusting, where he's at now,
yeah,
correct?
He's very happy where he's at. He's stable now. What happened when he was in Ohio, we have been trying for a long time to get him off this one medication. It's called Depakote, and it's for seizures. And it has a black box label warning. And Kevin had pancreatitis while he was in Ohio, and it was very serious. He could have died. And that was because of the toxicity of that one medication. It's for seizures. Kevin has seizure disorder as well. And while he was in the hospital, we got him off of that medication. And so he's doing better than ever because he's off that really bad medication that we've been trying to get him off for so long. And he wanted to move to San Diego. I mean, he put it in his college success book. He was taking a goal-setting class when he was in Santa Barbara, and one of his goals was to move to San Diego. So we kind of feel that things kind of worked out for the best, but it was very traumatic to go through it.
Yeah, but you know what? I remember reading your blogs that you were putting up there, and I followed you pretty closely. And we even talked about this at one point. All during the time, knowing me being a psychic medium, I felt really with him that he was taking things, like he was more upset that people weren't accepting him than anything else, really, because I get he's a big teddy bear where, you know, he's very lovable, and to have people say that about him, I just didn't think that was right. And with the teacher,
it was very hurtful. I mean, it's very hurtful for anybody to say anything about your child, especially when your child struggles so much with certain challenges. Yep. And he works very hard. He works very hard to understand his challenges and to overcome them. Mm-hmm. And it was just extremely hurtful. The teacher even, during the time that we were going through all of this, the Isla Vista shooting happened in Santa Barbara, that horrible shooting. And this teacher even went on TV and compared Kevin to the Isla Vista shooter, which is like, it was just crazy what she was doing. And there seemed to be nobody there to stop her from saying all these horrible things about Kevin. I violated his confidentiality by writing blogs about it. And so the school district said that. And I was like, well, she's going on and she's actually lying about things, and can't you stop her from doing these lies or saying these lies about him? And it seemed like the union, and this is a problem in California with school unions, supported her. It was unbelievable to me, and it just showed what systems are really broken in
it's called the buddy system. Yep. It's called the buddy system, and I hate the buddy system. I've seen it hurt too many people, and it's just not fair the way they work.
Oh, it's not fair. And I heard early on, like, the superintendent was sympathetic to Kevin, and he was disappointed in the teachers all sticking together against Kevin. But that's what happened. And he got in between, too, because it was a union issue. And then the attorneys got involved, and, of course, school attorneys, I mean, they came up with a whole scenario, I'm sure, to make Kevin look like some deranged person just to protect their own interests.
Right. Yeah, the good old buddy system there. Now, let's go on to his art.
Okay.
Do you feel like he puts, like, what he perceives the world into art, or what do you think is the main reason of his art?
I think the art started out as a sensory type of way of expressing himself. He really got into the textures and the colors and the movement of it was not about an outcome at all. It was just about, you know, moving the brush around the canvas. And I think that's it was very important for Kevin. It helped him organize himself. The art also gave him a safe place, free of expectations. Kevin's been through a lot of therapies, like most kids with autism has. Well, art, you could set your own parameters. You could choose your own colors. It gives you a lot of freedom that is not available in regular therapies a lot of times with autistic kids. So we really liked the art for him. I think Kevin has just a feeling of color, a good sense of color and placement and texture and sensory that informs him when he does his art.
Now, what is the website where they can go see his art?
It's kevingallery.com.
Okay, good. They can go up there and look, because I've seen some of his work, and it is really, really good.
Oh, yeah, and he continues to paint. He's been painting here since he's taking art classes now in El Cajon.
Well, he's going to really make something of himself with that art, I believe, because he puts his all into that, and it's really fascinating.
He likes art. He really likes what Kevin wants to do. He wants to be a DJ. He likes music. And he likes mariachi music and Middle Eastern music, so it's kind of odd choices, but that's his thing. He could rattle off all these mariachi bands. It's, like, amazing. He has an amazing memory for certain things.
Well, is he like 100% verbal?
Yeah, he's very verbal.
Okay, good. I know the child that I had in my class was not, so that's why I was wondering. But he seems like he's held it up a lot better than some adults have, where he's been the adult. Some of the, like the teacher and whatever has been childish. And, when you go into teaching, you go in for the children. And a lot of times the teachers, and I've worked in the schools, I've worked in the colleges and whatnot, but a lot of times I've noticed in the grade schools especially that the teachers will be in their rooms in the teacher's lounge talking about children. We had a little boy that, always came with high waters, and his mother would not make him breakfast, but she made him lunch, and he would eat his lunch going to school, and everybody would pick on him. But in the teacher's lounge, I heard the teacher talking about that kid, and, look how he's dressed. He doesn't have any lunch and this and that and all that. And teachers are supposed to rally around the child and help the child. I know.
Absolutely, and it doesn't happen. And I noticed in carpentry, I've been told by people who work in that district that they've been offended that teachers do exactly what you're saying. They will talk badly about the parents, especially if you have high expectations for your child. Then you're going to be really talked badly about, because certain teachers, and they're great teachers. Kevin has had wonderful teachers, but there are some that just, they don't want to really, I don't think they should be teaching.
Nope.
This one teacher, absolutely, I don't think she should be teaching. I think she harms kids.
I had between 12 and 16 kids in my class when I was teaching the special ed children, which was in middle school, was 6 to 8. And before I got there, this one teacher let them watch the BET show, the Bet Show, and she wouldn't do any work with them. Well, my kids ranged from IQs of 70 and below, which is, mental problems, their IQs. Well, anyway, I thought that I actually gave them homework, and I sent them off, and, their parents were really, wow, you're actually doing work with them. Well, thinking the time I didn't have a contract and I was transferred to the high school, and when I left, they put a woman in there that was just telling them, well, here's a penny, here's a dime. Well, 3/4 of the parents pulled their kids out and put them in other schools because they wanted their children taught like humans, like they should be taught, and not as, kids that know no better, because these kids knew. They would go home and they would sit at the table and they would do their homework, and they were so excited. And they would come in and show me the next day, here's my homework, which they were never given before. And they're 6th, 7th, and 8th graders.
Wow.
My son one time went to a German school, because we were in Germany. And, it was an American school, but he had a German teacher. And she was terrible. I went in raising all kind of hate because of stuff that she was doing and saying. And the principal said to me, Mary, the teacher's ready to, go ahead and retire at the end of the school year. Let's just let her go, try to bide with her. Well, she was really doing horrible stuff to the kids and saying horrible stuff to them. But she was 70 years old, or she was a day, and she was as rotten as they can come. And I saw that through all the school districts. A lot of the teachers want help, but there are just some few that are there just to collect the paycheck and some drama.
Yeah, and this one, I'm not going to say this teacher didn't have, good points. She was very enthusiastic. She just played really heavily favorites, and so this is something I don't understand. If you have a child and they're the favorite in the class and whatever, some other child's not being the favorite in the class, and it's just not a good way to be teaching. but these parents who got preferential treatment, they rallied around this teacher, and I found that really disappointing. It was like, well, it wasn't just the teachers. I mean, I had parents and aides that supported what I was doing because this teacher had other complaints against her, but it seemed like she would always target one or two students. I mean, there were always one or two students, and Kevin happened to be one this one year, but there's always, if it wasn't Kevin, it's going to be somebody else. But the other students that get preferential treatment, I mean, their parents are okay.
Right. Well, they had the shiny dime.
Well, I guess. I mean, I wouldn't want my son to be in where there was such a disparity. Even if he was getting preferential treatment, I mean, I don't know, but that's just me.
No, I agree with you.
Because they have to witness the teacher being mean to another student. I mean, it's like witnessing bullying. It's not healthy.
Exactly. And that's, I hate to say this, but even social media, I mean, you go on there and you read about adults bullying other adults, and it's like, how do we expect our children to grow up and not bully when we see adults doing it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And so, you know, teachers are supposed to be setting an example.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, what are the kids learning from that?
Oh, I know, exactly. That's just, I don't know. I don't go for it. I'm with you on all this, you know. But I went through your journey with you on this, and I mean, I don't know you personally. Well, you know, it's really nice. People were following it. I got so much support from the Internet, and I got support from my local community, especially from aides, the assistants, you know, teachers' aides that had worked in that class. I got a lot of support from those people because they saw what was happening. And they were the adults, and they felt powerless. You know, that's something to say. You know, instructional assistants that help in special ed classes, they are told not to talk to the parents a lot of times. They're told to keep their mouth shut, and they witness some horrific things, and they're not free because they're afraid of losing their job. They can't, communicate things. Is this teacher an older person or?
Yeah, she's in her 50s. She's about my age.
Oh, wow. Well, let's just hope she finds another kind of career choice, and maybe if she worked in the prison system for a while, she may appreciate it.
There you go.
Well, yeah, there you go. All right, Debbie, Pam does have some questions to ask you, so I'm going to ask her to come on.
Okay.
Hi, Debbie. How are you doing?
Hi, Pam.
Hi, I've enjoyed listening to you. I mean, not, of course, what happened to your son, but, I mean, it's very informational as far as I've seen a lot of that going on myself, and my son has been diagnosed with they call it, you know, in the spectrum of autism.
Okay.
So I
How old is your
understand
son?
a lot of what you're saying. He's 18 now. He just turned 18 actually last June, so he'll be 19 this year.
Okay.
And I'm curious to know a couple of things. Did art start early for Kevin? You know, did you see that right away, or is that something he worked up to?
He had no artistic ability at all. When he was, like, in kindergarten, he would scribble with a black crayon and wouldn't even use colors. This just happened because he had a therapist who actually had graduated from RISD and was a really good artist himself, and so that was kind of a natural therapy for this therapist to come in. He was a behaviorist, but he came in and just worked with art with Kevin, and we would do social interactions with the art, like, you know, conversation about what you're going to do, what the planning about how you're going to plan your palette and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, I was just curious because my son, since he started walking, has been obsessed with the weather. I mean, this child watches weather 24/7 if he could, but probably watches, you know, the whole time he's up, other when he falls asleep. And sometimes when he knows a storm is coming, he'll wake up in the middle of the night and he'll turn the TV on, he'll look out the windows and things like that. And I've also noticed another pattern of him, like at one point, all he wanted to do was go bowling. So every single weekend, that's where he would go. Now his new obsession is skating. So is this something that kids that have autism do? Like they get zoned into one thing, and that's all they want to do. And it may be forever, but at least it's for a while on some things.
Oh, yeah, I think that's one of the characteristics of autism, and that's one thing that a lot of us have been talking about using your child's passions somehow in their either in their careers or in their hobbies or whatever. I just saw Ron Suskind. He has a book called Life Animated, and his son is in his 20s as well, but he was always fascinated with Disney videos. And so now Ron is, or that son Owen, is creating these amazing videos. They're really fun to watch, too. He could do any Disney voice, and he sounds exactly like the character. And he's making these, they're called fan dubs. They're very creative what he's doing with them. So I think if you could find ways, Ron has something called affinity therapy. It's finding therapies that are in affinity with your child's special interests. And that's what the Art of Autism is about, too. That is the collaborative I have, is the Art of Autism. And we have about 500 participating artists. And it is about finding what your passion is and being able to adapt that to either a career or a hobby or something that makes your life joyful.
Yeah, and, and that kind of brings me to another question I had where, since he's been 3 years old, he's been in special education. He graduated last year, and now I feel lost because there's nothing that anybody has told me. Like, you would think that somebody in special ed and the IEPs and all that, those things that you go to, would say, okay, here's what you do once they graduate. Here's how you give them life skills. This is where you take them. This is what you do to get them job skills. There's none of that out there. I happened on a resource myself because my cousin works for a company called Segwin, and that's what they do is they teach people with special needs life skills and job skills. They get them jobs and do things like that. So thankfully, I have somebody like him in my family that I could turn to and ask him, and I called that company, and they gave me resources to go through, which I'm going to be calling a million places starting Monday.
What state are you in?
I didn't know what to do. I'm in Illinois.
What state are you in?
Illinois.
You're in Illinois. Okay. It really depends on the state. I think NPR just did a program in the last couple of days about aging out and autistic adults aging out, and then NBC had that program last Sunday about it as well because it's a big issue. In the next 5 to 10 years, I think 500,000 autistic kids are going to become adults. And what do you do with that? With all these kids? And it really depends on the state. Like where we are, did your son have a graduate with a diploma, a high school diploma?
Yes.
Because that will,
because
they're not allowed to go to
transition
transition programs, I don't think, if they have a high school diploma. I may be wrong, but I heard that prevents them from continuing education till you're 22 in the high school. And so Kevin's in a program because he did not graduate he got a certificate of completion, not a diploma. And so
I should clarify that because we were told at one point that, yes, he was going to get a diploma, and then when I had talked to the dean, because what happened was when he graduated from grade school, he went into a regular high school because we had nowhere else to bring him to. The private school in our area does not cater to special needs children. So we put him in the public school, and he started out there, and it just was not working out, mainly because of bullying. Yeah. So then he was put into a special school at that point for the last about 3 years, maybe 2.5 years of his high school time. We've never gotten a diploma. So he did get a certificate of completion at the ceremony.
Your son should still be eligible for transition services if they have them up until age 22.
Do I go to the high school to look at that?
Yes, absolutely, because I think it's mandated in the IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. I could be wrong, though. I'm not really up on all the laws and everything, but I know that for kids like Kevin, and Kevin, when he went to Ohio, he was in transition, so he had already he was over the age of 18. So that was all funded through transition programming.
Where would they find out?
I'm going to have to check into that.
Where would they find out, Deborah, information? Is there a website they can go to in their state?
There's the 2020 Federal Transition Plan. I posted it. I did a blog on the NBC Aging Out segment that was last week. I forget what it was called. But I put some resources there, and it was called On the Brink. You could even look up On the Brink with NBC because they listed transition resources on that website. And I put some on the Art of Autism, my website, under that blog about the 2020 transition plan. It's a federal transition plan. It gives information. But there are lots of resources if you Google them about transition for autistic adults or, autistic people, but the thing is that a lot of times things vary by state and by region.
Mm-hmm. And that shouldn't be. It should be straight across. This should be something, especially when it's federal, that it should be straight across. Nobody should be able to. Right.
Florida
but I'm
thing.
Just saying states should follow.
Right. Like 22,000 people on a waiting list in Florida.
Yeah,
I mean,
ridiculous.
It's like, it really does vary from state to state.
Oh, and it's not going to get any better because, as you said, there's a lot of kids that are aging out right now, and they're going to need help. And it's just like, too, as adults, we're getting into the age of being senior citizens, and where's our help? That's dwindling, These things should not be dwindling. They should be enhanced because now we have the greatest amount of senior citizens in how many, a century or whatever it is. So that's going to be the same way with the kids.
A lot of the autistic people are here to change systems, actually, because I think a lot of the educational systems are broken, and we have to learn how to teach in different ways.
Exactly.
Right. Yep.
There's a girl, I don't know the whole story, but there was a girl that I was reading on Facebook. She went up in front of a school district and was yelling about these tests that they have to take at the end of the year. Or, here they're called TCAPs down in Florida. They're called FCATs. Mm-hmm. And if you do not pass the test, you do not graduate. Mm. And it's stupid because the standardized testing is bull crap.
Yeah,
so testing out of everything needs to be taken out, and they need to just, in my opinion, teach the child the way the child needs to learn, not the way somebody thinks they need to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And I think that's what the people that I've seen that have done the best, the autistic young adults, they've really either been in private school, they've been homeschooled, or their parents have been very active in the school to change the way the kids were being taught.
I homeschooled.
Did you?
One of mine. And I took my son out of 7th grade of school in Florida because they told me that if he just passed one math question on a test for the whole, they'll pass him for the whole year. And I took him out and decided to homeschool him. And then my daughter's been homeschooled.
Yeah, I kind of wish I at different points we did homeschool Kevin, and that was one thing. We would do programs in the summer, and it would only be an hour a day of like reading and math. he would make 9 months progress in the 3 months of summer and only make 3 months progress during the 9 months of the school year when he's there all day. And I documented that for years and took it to the superintendent, and it's like, why can't you get efficient ways of teaching, or what are you doing wrong here?
Exactly.
Now, I have another question for you, if you don't. I'm sorry, Mary. I had one other question. Since my son's diagnosis is on the spectrum of autism, because they say he has pervasive developmental disorder and oppositional behavior disorder, or something like that it's called, plus he's bipolar. How do you get that pinpointed? I mean, that to me is just kind of like, well, he could fit in that category, he could fit in that category. How do you get a diagnosis pinpointed? That way you can help him and understand more of what he's going through and what he has, get him on the right medication and so forth.
Well, that's a $20 million question, because it is such a wide spectrum. It is, and there are comorbid things with autism. Like you're saying, my son has schizoaffective disorder as well as autism, and it's very difficult. And the medication, that's one thing that we found out with the medication, is that there's these designer medications that the doctors are pushing, but when we got Kevin off the Depakote, we got him on lithium, and lithium has really worked well for Kevin, but that's not a medication that they push. Lithium's a natural substance, and I don't think they get the commissions or whatever from the pharmaceutical companies for lithium, because it is a natural substance. I don't
they
know.
only have
him. The whole system is messed up.
Definitely. He's only on one medication, and I don't think that it's enough or it's the right one. And I think that, he was diagnosed when he was in grade school, so maybe I should take him to another psychologist or psychiatrist and have him reevaluated. It's about the only thing I can think of to do now.
Yeah, absolutely. Is he on Social Security?
No, they just denied him. I am, blown away by that. I just cannot even begin to believe it. And they even had him go to one of their psychiatrists, and they still denied him. So now I'm going to have to go the route of getting a lawyer to get this done. I just went through it myself for the past 4 years. I had to get a lawyer finally to get mine and for my disabilities, and now I'm going to have to go through it again with him. They wouldn't give it to him when he was younger because we were both working at that time and said we made too much money. Well, now I'm on disability, so there's no more excuses, and plus he's 18.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Wow. So is he capable of working?
Not really. He's had a couple of jobs and got fired from both of them. They were only part-time. I'm talking 6 hours on the weekend at a bowling alley, not a bowling alley, a skating rink. And he just doesn't understand his responsibilities fully. He just thinks that, okay, it's 4 o'clock, now I can go home and walk out and not have his work done, or use it to socialize instead of working, or, things like that. And that's why I want to find him somewhere to go for life skills and for job training, because he needs to understand that. God forbid me and my husband die, he's going to be lost. He's going to be homeless, walking the streets.
Yeah, yes. Well, that's what many of our kids either end up in the criminal justice system or on the street.
Right.
It's really sad.
I totally agree with that.
Well, ladies, it's almost time for us to get ready to hang up here.
Okay.
It's been very, very good having you, Debra. Thank you so much. And I'm sure people listening that they've gotten a lot of information from you.
Thanks, Mary.
One more time, can you give them the web address of Kevin's work and where they can get more information, or how they can contact you if they wish to talk to you also?
Kevin's is at kevingallery.com, and I'm theartofautism@gmail.com. And if they Googled The Art of Autism, the website would come up.
All right, great. Well, you keep championing for your son, because I've always learned, or I've had to have learned, that the only champion your child has is you. And you've done very well so far, so keep up the great work.
Well, thanks so much, Mary.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Debra, for answering my questions.
Oh, thanks, Pam. It was nice being on.
Thanks, Debra, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
Pam, our time's up. I just wanted to say happy birthday again. And I know I've
Thank
kept
you.
2 hours away from your family on your birthday, and you can tell them I
Oh,
thank
that's
you for that. But
nobody's even home, so it doesn't matter.
All right. You have the house to yourself now, so you can hang up and go take that bubble bath. All right, Pam.
Well, Mary, before we go, I know that next week we have one guest confirmed. I'm not sure about your other guest. I guess you and I can speak about that privately. But next week, it's April 24th, my special host, Dr. Mary-Barrett, is going to interview my other special host, Jim Mallard, who is our paranormal guy that does a show. Oh, you're not? That switched? Okay. Well, we'll talk about it off air, and then you guys just go to take2radio.com. That's with the number 2. I always have the upcoming guests on there, so if it's changed, we'll put that on there at that time. And also follow at Take2 Radio on Twitter, and then Facebook is also Take2 Radio. So that's it. I guess we're done for the night, then. Thanks,
great.
Mary, for another great show.
And I will be talking to you in a second. But okay. We'll talk to you later.
All right,
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all for listening.
Get connected with Take-Two Radio on Facebook or Twitter at Take-Two Radio. For email updates on future shows, follow at Blog Talk Radio. For previous episodes, upcoming guests, and more, visit Take2Radio.com.
Hi there. Do you have a business? Do you want to take that business to the next level? Did you know that Take-Two Radio is one of the top 300 shows on Blog Talk Radio out of over 15K shows? Take-Two Radio has over 1.7 million listeners. So if you're ready to take that next level for your business, contact Pam at take2radio@gmail.com.